Most important steps to take or most important things when it comes to progressing in your language learning journey as soon as possible. Okay, when it comes to learning a language, there are logical steps that must be taken overall in your language learning journey so that you're able to go with the brain psychology. Okay, what do I mean? I mean that the way our brain functions, we have to take those things into consideration and then take steps in terms of the usage of resources so that we are able to be most efficient as possible. Okay, so that brings me to a couple of things which are very important when it comes to progressing quickly in the language overall. Obviously, first thing is going to be starting the grammar as soon as you can. Okay, but this is not the main thing that I want to discuss about. This is more sort of like a prerequisite. Okay, before talking about the main thing, I want to talk about the prerequisite, which is grammar or grammatical understanding or conceptual understanding behind the language. If you're learning French for TFT Canada, start nowhere but start understanding the grammar. Okay, you can go onto my YouTube playlist. It's in the playlist tab, beginner to B2 plus playlist. You will be able to open it and see step-by-step lectures. That would be the perfect resource to start grammar. But again, when it comes to grammar as well, how much grammar should we do or how much time span should we spend into doing the grammar? See, if your goal is to clear exam in about 10 to 12 months, then what I recommend is finish the grammar as early as possible, max 4 months. Okay, max in 4 months. Like your whole grammar should be done in 4 months. But now we also have to define what do we mean by whole grammar. Okay, obviously I do not mean completing the whole book. Okay, but what do I mean is that you should be well acquainted with all the major topics. Okay, for example, I mean obviously I'm not going to give the list of all the major topics, but if you go into complete French all in one book, all the important topics which are to be covered in the language, for example, verbs, all the past tenses, present tenses, future tenses, adverbs, adjectives, compound prepositions, and all of these things, they should obviously be covered, but you don't need to memorize them or you don't need to learn those concepts by heart, because that's not the main thing that we are focusing on. Even if you try to learn all of those things, you will still not see any improvement in the language. Okay, but now how do we see the actual improvements and how do we see the most efficient improvements? Okay, so once you are pretty good in the grammar, pretty good I mean once you are around 75% 75 to 80% confident in the grammatical topics that you're doing, then you should start reading and listening as early as possible. Okay, these two things are one of the most underrated aspects to focus on when it comes to learning a language. Why? Because when we think about being fluent in the language, we always think of speaking. Okay, we always want to work on our speaking and I'm not able to speak French, that means I just don't know the language. No, this is not how it works. Speaking is a later task. It's a later step that you will be taking soon, but for that as well, you need to start doing reading and listening. Why? Let me tell you. Because see, in order to speak well, you need to know how the words sounds. That means you need to know their pronunciation, and in order to know their pronunciation, you need to listen to the words. You need to do a lot of listening so that you're able to connect the words with its phonetics. Okay, and in order to do a lot of listening, you still need a base. You still need to have a base level of vocabulary in your brain. Now, in order to have that base level of vocabulary in your brain, you need to do reading, and reading is done once your grammar is done. Okay, once your grammar is kind of like 75-80% completed, with that you know good base level of vocabulary. It's like basic A1 A2 level vocabulary. Once you know that, both of these things are combined, which sets a base level of comprehension in your reading, and then you start reading something. For example, pick any storybook, pick a basic storybook, give more volume, keep things simple and easy, but do them with more volume. Okay, that means instead of focusing too much on complexity in your reading content, I would like you to focus more on the simplicity but volume of reading content. Why? Because this is the point which will make your brain, or this is the step which will make your brain more acquainted with the concepts. Okay, because when you are reading basic French as well, you're still seeing all the prepositions, you're still seeing all the vocabulary, you're still seeing the verb conjugations, and basically all the topics are applied. Okay, all the concepts that you learn, they are applied in your simple reading. Okay, and there is not too much worry that we need to do when it comes to learning higher vocabulary, because right now our goal is just to do basic readings. Once you start understanding the basic readings properly, parallelly you should also be doing listening now. Okay, and in order to do listening, yes, I don't recommend to start just watching movies or start doing podcasts and stuff like that. The listenings will also be simpler listenings. For example, like animated YouTube videos from Listen EF, or you can start from this channel called Inner French or French Facile. Okay, so vlogs which are simple and easy to understand, but they are still in French. All of them should be in French, no English whatsoever. Okay, you combine these reading and listening practices, which will now set a strong base of your language. Okay, when it comes to being fluent in any language, 80% of all the words are very common repetitive words. Okay, like for example, if you want to get fluent in the language, total number of words, like I'm just giving numerical examples, okay, this is not the exact number, the total number of words that you need to know are 5,000. okay, but out of those 5,000, around 1,500 are the words which are the most commonly used words. Okay, and once we know those 1,500 most commonly used words, the remainder 3,500 words become easier to consume over the time. Okay, and those 3,500 words, we don't need to know them in our conscious brain. They can be sitting back in our subconscious, which means through reading and listening we can recognize those higher level words. But the main improvement, the main focus should on those 1,500 most common words, which will again improve with your more reading and listening. Once this happens, now you have a now your brain knows the phonetics and the pronunciation enough that it can start doing more speaking now. Okay, so this is where you start doing speaking. And what to do for speaking? Keep it simple. Pick basic topics, like talk about your daily routine, talk about your favorite activities, and just start creating monologues and start practicing monologues on it. Just like, I'm speaking right now in front of the camera in English, but you do the same thing, but you do it in French. Okay, so that you are just able to speak to yourself, explain some talk about your routine to yourself, and then once you're done speaking, you just watch your recording so that you can see where you were getting stuck and practice it multiple times. Okay, this is how you are going to build your fluency. Once you start increasing your comprehensible input in reading and listening, then you slowly and steadily increase the level of those reading and listening resources, which are going to really bump up your French comprehension. Okay, so please do not underestimate how much reading and listening is important, because reading and listening sets a stronger foundation for your speaking and writing later. Okay, because it's only if you read more you will be able to understand the structure of your language. Okay, only if you listen more, only then you will be able to learn new phrases and get used to the French accent and understand and learn the pronunciations. Okay, so reading and listening, always very important. Then speaking is the later task, writing is the later task. Okay, so with this I'll end this video. Make sure to follow these things. See, and I also see that a lot of you guys are not subscribing. Okay, you have been watching my videos but you are not subscribed, so make sure to subscribe and put the bell button so that you can receive all the notifications when any video is out, so that the information is not missed. So I'll see you in the next one. If you're interested in learning French for TEF TCF Canada, you can click the link in the description to connect with my team. And au revoir.